The best coding model in the world, right? That's not just marketing speak. That is literally what independent review teams are calling Anthropic's brand new release. And look, when an external team drops a huge statement like that after just a week of early access, well, you know we aren't just looking at some tiny incremental update anymore. No, we are looking at a fundamental shift in what artificial intelligence can actually pull off. So, welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're hanging out with me today because we've got a lot to unpack with this massive paradigm-shifting release of Claude Fable 5. Today, we're going to explore what I like to call the AI delegation shift. We'll be looking closely at the raw data, the incredibly clever safety architecture underneath it all, and most importantly, exactly how you need to rewire your own daily workflows to actually get the most out of a tool that's this powerful. Okay, let's dive into this and roadmap where we're headed. First up, we'll meet Claude Fable 5. Then we'll look at the one model, two names situation. Third, we're breaking down the fallback safety net. Fourth, we'll talk about the catches of this new warp drive. And finally, the new rules for builders. All right, let's get into it. Starting off with Section 1, meet Claude Fable 5, the totally new frontier of capability. Before we get totally bogged down in the complex mechanics of how this thing was actually released, we really need to look at the shiny surface, because the sheer scale of the work being done here is wild. Take Stripe, for example. They used Fable 5 for a massive code-base-wide migration. And we are talking about 50 million lines of Ruby code. 50 million. Doing that by hand, it would have easily taken a dedicated team over 2 months of just grinding effort. But with Fable 5, it compressed that entire migration into a single day. I mean, just pause and think about what that means for your engineering velocity. It's a total game changer. And hey, this kind of capability is for sure not limited to just software engineering. Over on the hard science side of things, Anthropic's own protein design experts reported a 10x acceleration on parts of the drug design process. Fable is out there consistently producing novel scientific hypotheses. Actually, in blinded comparisons, its molecular biology hypotheses were preferred over previous Opus class models 80% of the time. It's not just regurgitating facts. It is actively pushing the boundaries of scientific discovery. Now, for the hard data folks out there, check out this score, a 91 out of 100 on Every's Senior Engineer benchmark. That is literally the hardest coding test they run. And to put that 91 into perspective for a second, Anthropic's previous heavy hitter, Opus 4.8, scored a 63. And GPT 5.5, that scored a 62. So Fable 5 isn't just beating the previous ceilings, it's completely blowing past them and landing squarely in the competency range of human senior engineers. Just incredible. Moving right along to Section 2, one model, two names. We're going to dive into the whole Fable and Mythos split. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what Anthropic has done here. See, Fable 5, which is safeguarded and available to the general public today, and Mythos 5, which is completely unlocked but heavily restricted under a cyber defense program called Project Glasswing, are actually the exact same underlying model. I mean, the Latin word fabula and the Greek word mythos basically mean the exact same thing, right? The core intelligence is identical. The only distinction lives entirely in what each version is actually allowed to do. So the absolutely crucial point here is this, that raw Mythos-class capability, it actually arrived way back in April for a very select group of cyber defenders and infrastructure providers. The raw horsepower itself isn't what's new today. No, the real breakthrough here is Anthropic's confidence. They finally believe that their safeguards are robust enough to safely put this insane level of intelligence right in front of the general public. Fable 5 is basically the living proof of that belief. Which brings us perfectly to Section 3, the fallback safety net, where the architecture itself is the product. So how they do it? Well, the secret lies in a layer of classifiers. You can think of these as separate, dedicated AI systems that act almost like vigilant gatekeepers or bouncers guarding a VIP club. They actively watch your prompts for any signs of misuse across 3 highly sensitive areas: cybersecurity, biology and chemistry, and model distillation. But here is where we see some genuine innovation. Normally, when a traditional AI thinks your prompt is too risky, you get a flat refusal, right? Just a hard, frustrating no. Fable 5 doesn't do that at all. Instead, when a query trips one of those classifier bouncers, Fable gracefully downshifts. It quietly routes your prompt over to a weaker, but still very capable model, Claude Opus 4.8, and it actually tells you that it's done so. So you get a highly capable fallback instead of just hitting a brick wall. Now, if you're sitting there worried about being constantly throttled by these safety systems, this should definitely put you at ease. Anthropic noted that while they tuned these safeguards to be pretty conservative, less than 5% of sessions trigger any fallback whatsoever. That means for over 95% of your work, you are effectively running the fully unlocked Mythos 5 model right at your desk, completely uninterrupted. And objectively speaking, the security really holds up. After more than 1,000 hours of external bug bounty testing, researchers found literally 0 universal jailbreaks. 0. However, there is a super vital operational detail you need to be aware of here. Fable 5 comes with a new 30-day data retention policy, which is used strictly for safety and abuse detection. While they promise it's not used for training their models, if you're running sensitive, highly regulated workloads, well, that 30-day retention is a major compliance reality that you absolutely need to account for. All right, let's drop the marketing hype for a minute. Section 4, a warp drive with catches. It's time for an independent reality check. Okay, so the economics here are completely sobering. Fable 5 costs $10 per million input tokens and a whopping $50 per million output tokens. That's roughly twice the cost of Opus 4.8 and more than 3 times the cost of Sonnet 4.6. Guys, it is token hungry, it is pretty slow, and honestly, its deep deliberation means it is completely wasted on simple tasks like fixing typos. Unless, you just genuinely enjoy burning through your company's budget. This is an expensive, heavy-duty tool built strictly for high-stakes, complex tasks. As the independent reviewers over at Every so perfectly pointed out, precision in, precision out. Fable acts like a warp drive for power users, for sure, but it actively punishes loose or poorly framed briefs. It demands a really sharp target. If you give it a lazy prompt, you are just going to burn through expensive tokens and end up with a frustratingly slow, totally underwhelming result. And that leads us to our final part today, Section 5, the new rules for builders. We're talking about a complete paradigm shift in your workflows. So what does this all mean, and how do we actually adapt to this? Look, if you are using Fable 5 like an interactive chatbot, doing that rapid back-and-forth conversational iteration, you are basically using a screwdriver to hammer at a nail. It's simply the wrong tool for the job. This is a delegation engine. You don't chat with it. You hand off heavy, complete, massive jobs to it. So here is your entirely new workflow. Step 1, frame the problem with clean edges. Problem framing is the new highly sought-after skill, not just simple prompt engineering. Step 2, delegate the complete job to the model. Step 3, walk away. Literally, go run parallel asynchronous threads for your other tasks instead of just sitting there waiting in a chat window. And step 4, carefully review the complex output. You really have to start treating Fable like a highly capable employee rather than a search engine. The macro implications for your business here are just massive. First, you absolutely must plan for variable costs and availability. Anthropic is actually staging access right now because they expect demand to completely outstrip supply. Second, realize that release mechanisms, like those downshifting classifiers we talked about, are now a core part of the product you're buying. And third, a distinct AI adoption competitive gap is forming right before our eyes. The immense value of this tool concentrates purely on those who know exactly how to frame and supervise large, delegable jobs. Which leaves us with a really critical question to ponder today. As AI officially crosses the frontier into autonomous delegation, are you still trying to use a delegation engine like a simple interactive chatbot? It is time to elevate your workflows to match the sheer intelligence sitting right in front of you. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I will catch you next time.